For coming. I really appreciate it. It's great to see such a big turnout. As Charlie was saying, we just got started here. We've only been talking about this for a couple weeks, but I wanted to give you an overview about comprehensive lake management planning and what's involved and what to expect in the near future here. Why do we plan? The lakes really can't protect themselves. Serious problems can and do exist. I mean, I know that people here, I'm sure, notice the algae in the lake and the Eurasian water milfoil, and there's things we can do to improve the system. It's best to be proactive versus reactive. If you wait for a significant problem to happen, sometimes it's going to take you a long time to get out of that hole that's been dug. So you're better off being proactive and actively going at problems and identifying them early before there's serious problems. Also, it helps you provide for future improvements. Also, lake management plans assess all the different uses of the lake, and it helps you communicate with each other. And so that different, whether it's recreation, boating, or fishing, or swimming, that they're compatible and that all the stakeholders understand and work together to maximize those benefits. It also results in actions being taken in a rational, systematic approach. That's really important. It's also the basis for additional funding. When you have a comprehensive lake management plan that's approved by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, it opens up a lot of funding sources through our grant program, through planning and protection grants primarily, which I'll talk about a little bit more later in the presentation. So without that, those funds aren't available to you. Next slide. Why now? How is it different now? Green Lake has been studied extensively. Jen just mentioned this, that from the Priority Watershed Project way back, and including many studies have been done. And a lot of excellent work's been done. I've been basically in this area since 2007. Mark Sussing and I shared this area, and he more or less handled Green Lake until he recently retired. So it's come to me now, and I've been trying to read up on all the different research that's been done, what's been done by the lake group, and that sort of thing. And I'm about probably 3/4 of the way through it. Jen and I are actually going to share some resources after we're done here. And also it's been studied by the USGS. It's done a lot of work out here. But to date, no comprehensive management plan has been written, which really compiles all this information and brings it together in one coherent document. So you know what's been done, you're not repeating yourself, sort of situation. It also helps you identify what hasn't been done in all these studies. So next slide. This is a little bit busy, but this is more or less the approved Dnr template for how these plans should be done in order to be approved by the department. Step one is we're about right here now. We're just entering step one. We're not even in the box. Step one is assessment, and that's where the sponsor, which in this case would be the Green Lake Sanitary District and also the association. I'm not sure if the county is sponsoring this or not. But they become the sponsor. They have goals. There's things you guys want to accomplish. This is a little busy, but I'll just try to give you the general gist here. We identify problems, collect existing data, do a complete data research, and make sure you've compiled and have and understand everything that's been done to date. Then you assess what the conditions of the lake are and determine what management needs and potential needs are there. Then you have, in some situations, if the lake's in great shape and there's really not a lot of problems, maybe you put most of your energy in just protecting what you have. Most lakes that I work with and have worked with over the last 19 years need all three of these. Protection for what they have, improvements need to be made, and then also restorative efforts. There's things that can be fixed that are broke. The second step is more of a planning phase. This is all planning. And I should mention that this is all interactive, and the public and stakeholders of the lake are involved in every step of the way. That's very important and critical for this to be successful. Are there any planning studies that need to be done prior to doing the management plan? Or conversely, once the management plan is done, maybe it's going to identify additional studies that need to be done. Step 3 is approval. You can get permits. The obvious approval is the DNR approves your plan. Then you have public input, agency input, and then step 4 is the action. That's implementation. And again, public's involved in all this. Whether it's restoration, enhancement, aquatic plant control, there's quite a milfoil problem out there, among other issues. And other activities become grant eligible. Again, I mentioned that earlier. That's really quite critical. Next slide. Okay, effective planning process. Education. It needs to be a bi-directional or two-way communication throughout between stakeholders and resource professionals. You being the stakeholders, and not just everybody that lives on the lake. People that use the lake. People that maybe use the lake once every 10 years. They have a voice in this. Communication. Public outreach must involve as many people as possible. Again, reach out to everybody. If you miss somebody, there's a disconnect. They may feel like they weren't part of the process and they don't have ownership in what's being developed. Methods of how you're going to communicate. Public forums, such as tonight, newsletters, email, websites, and questionnaires or surveys that get sent out. And we've been talking about that. It's really in the process. We may do a survey, I think we probably will, which will list a whole myriad of issues, and you place a value as to what you think. Is it a problem? Isn't it a problem? Is it a major problem? A minor problem? And then when the questionnaires come back, we compile it, analyze it statistically, and we can say, well, 70% of the people in the lake are concerned about algae, or 70% of the people are concerned about, lack of water clarity, or motorboat traffic, recreational uses. So also, I think Jen was saying that there's going to be a website which you'll be able to access.
Yeah. On our website, all of the meetings will be videotaped. So we'll be putting them up on our website via YouTube. So if there's anyone who missed one of the workshops and they would like to know what's going on, hopefully we'll be able to have that up on our website in the next couple of days and so on and so forth.
Again, this needs to be a transparent process. The plan is developed in the open. There's no hidden agendas. Okay? Planned public participation. Jen has a handout that's going to go over this, but this is your chance to be involved, and this is great seeing all of you here for this meeting. And I really would encourage you to stay involved throughout this process because the plan's only as good as what's put into it. So this is really excellent. Well, here's what's going to happen so far, and again, this is based on a couple weeks, but the kickoff meeting, that's tonight, that's right now. Open houses on Thursday, July 28th from 6:30 to 8. Saturday, July 30th from 9 to 10:30. There'll be open houses where we're going to have, well, we haven't worked it all out, but easels where we're going to talk about the issues and allow you to tell us what you feel about the current situation. And that's going to be as valuable in another piece of the puzzle like the questionnaire would be. So you have these two plus that day. Again, the mailed-in survey questionnaire, and we need to get 50–60% return on those questionnaires for it to be statistically valid. So it's really important that people do fill this out. It's not that time-consuming. Again, this questionnaire identifies issues, but more importantly, it weighs them. It's a weighted average. So if one person is concerned about something and no one else is, it's not going to be high up on the list. It still needs to be accounted for, but if 90 out of 100 people identify another issue, that's very important. Then we'll have a wrap-up meeting once these meetings are all done and the questionnaire has been analyzed and we have the results back. Then we want to come back and present these results to you and give you a chance for additional input and keep you informed during that part of the process. And then again, once we get further along, once the draft plan is completed, we want to have another meeting to have everybody, after they've had a chance to read the plan, to come in and provide more feedback while it's still in the draft form prior to being submitted to the department for approval. Next slide. Okay, a typical plan chapters, if you haven't seen a lake management plan, the beginning is background information, and this can definitely be different. This is just a basic plan. Background information, what's been done, the characteristics of the lake, the watershed size, all the information that we can find that's relevant on the lake. Things that can be covered are like shoreline management. I'm sure you've heard that having buffers and not having manicured lawns right down to the water's edge for your entire property length is a good thing to do. Would assess that sort of thing. Fisheries, Dave Bart's area, aquatic plants. Well, a lot of times these plans have an aquatic plant management plan that addresses how the plant should be managed in the lake. Are we going to go after the aquatic invasive species? How are we going to manage the plants in the system in Byers Cove, along the lake shore, Silver Creek estuary, you name it. Goes over recreational uses and if there's any conflicts and what needs to happen there. Water quality is a big one, I think. It's going to go over the current state of the lake water quality from a nutrient standpoint, oxygen, the full suite. And also look at watershed management, what's happening in this large watershed. A large part of the water that comes to this lake comes from Fond du Lac County. So we need to somehow look at Fond du Lac County as well and assess how farming practices and other practices are affecting the lake. Then there's an implementation plan, which is the action plan, where you get into what are we going to do to fix any problems that we have. There's protection, again, enhancement, restoration. Then there's a monitoring plan, which assesses the effectiveness of whatever we're attempting to do. So that's very important. And we can change the plan as we go. It should be an ever-evolving plan. It's not static. As you get more information, you update the plan. Issues to overcome to create an effective management plan. We all must work together to keep an open mind. I've been involved in a lot of these, and there's a lot of preconceived notions. We need to keep an open mind about this. It's not just about what's in front of your dock. I see that a lot. You could be doing something that's good for the overall lake, and everyone will agree with that except for one person that has a problem, an issue in front of their dock. They're not considering the entire system. We need to keep an open mind. Another way that these sort of efforts fail is with limited stakeholder involvement. I'm not seeing that as going to be a problem here at all. When you have few members of the community involved, you have limited ownership in whatever plan that comes out, and also limited understanding of what's in that plan and what needs to be done. And sometimes too much attention is given to the squeaky wheel, the one person or the small group that have one issue and they're stuck in that one issue. We have to look at the whole system, the entire system, because there's many issues and many opinions out there. Slide.